What's up, kiddos? All right, we are going to continue reading our spooky big kids book, Desmond Cole Ghost Patrol. We read the first 4 chapters, so now we're going to read the next 4 chapters. So let's get into it and see what happens. All right, chapter 5, The Silverware Man. The very next day was all about unpacking the house, or unpacking the boxes, and lifting heavy things, and moving those heavy things to just the right spot. While Mom unpacked clothes and books, Dad and I moved the furniture. Yeah, I was sweaty and tired, but I love putting things where they belong. Me too. Dad and I saved for the den for last. We had to lift giant chairs and a brand new sofa, then set up the TV and sound system. When everything was in place, we collapsed on the sofa, breathing hard. Dad declared, "It's official. This house is our home. And to celebrate, we need my famous lemonade." Dad thinks his lemonade is the greatest thing in the world. And actually it is. He went into the kitchen. As I followed him, there was a loud crash behind me. I spun around thinking something fell over, but what I saw was... How can I explain it? In the 2 seconds my back was turned, the entire living room had changed. All the furniture was rearranged. The sofa was now floating, like way up in the air. "Dad, Dad!" I raced into the kitchen. "You have to see this." I grabbed him by the arm and pulled him into the den, but the furniture was back exactly the way Dad and I had arranged it. You never would have known anything had been out of place. "What do I have to see?" Dad asked, sounding confused. I just stood there with my mouth open. Nothing," I mumbled. "I thought, forget it." Oh, that's freaky. I couldn't tell Dad what had just happened. He would think I was losing my mind. Maybe I was losing my mind. Dad shrugged. "Well, okay. Let's go get that lemonade. I'll bet you're thirsty," he laughed and put his arm around me as we walked. Mom had already unpacked the kitchen, and it was normal, boring, and spotless, just the way I like it. I tried to relax. Everything is going to be okay, I told myself. Boy, that would freak me out too. Dad was grabbing a pitcher from the cabinet when Mom called from upstairs. "Honey, can you give me a hand?" "Okay," Dad said. "Lemonade when I get back, Andres. I promise." I nodded and then closed my eyes. Maybe the den was just a weird daydream. Then I opened my eyes and gasped. Every drawer and cabinet in the kitchen was open. Cups and plates were piled on top of the table and counter, and our silverware was scattered on the floor. I went to scream, but before the sound came out, the forks and knives and spoons all slowly moved around in a circle. It looked like a tornado as they spun around. They started to form into something that looked human. It was a giant silverware man. Whoa, that's crazy. That was all I needed to see. So I took off and ran out the front door. I didn't even look where I was going. And as soon as I made it outside, I slammed into someone. I ran smack into Desmond Cole. Chapter 6. Oof, that's what Desmond said when I knocked the wind out of him. He sank into a heap on the ground. "Sorry, sorry, sorry," I said, helping him back up. I didn't see you standing." "It's okay," Desmond said. "But seriously, dude, what's your rush?" My mind was still racing from what I had just seen in the kitchen. No way I was going to tell Desmond what just happened. No way I was going to tell anyone. So I played it cool and searched for my calm voice. I just have to go to the store, for my parents. Cool, Desmond said. I'll walk you there. Okay. On the way, I tried to hide how scared I was, but my legs were still a little wobbly, and my hands were still a little shaky. I don't think Desmond noticed, though. He was too busy talking to people we passed on the street. It seemed like everybody in Kerrsville knew Desmond. One boy told him, "Thanks for everything the other day." "I'm glad I could help," Desmond said. Then we passed a girl who said, "Hey, thanks, Desmond. Call if you need me again," he replied. Finally, I had to ask, "What did you do for all those kids?" But Desmond changed the subject. "Did you eat my mom's lasagna yet?" No, not yet," I told him. "We always have pizza the first night in a new home. It's a tradition with us." When we reached the store, Desmond asked, "What did your parents want you to buy?" I had no idea what to tell him. "I'm supposed to get, grapes." Uh-oh, does he even have any money on him? Okay, I know that wasn't the best answer, but I could barely concentrate on what I was saying. My head was spinning with questions. How did Desmond help all those kids? And why didn't he want to tell me? And what in the world was happening back at my not so normal, not at all boring house? Then, almost like he was reading my mind, Desmond asked, "Have you discovered any secrets about the new house?" Whoa, that was all I needed to hear. I was off running again, this time away from Desmond. Sure, I was making a complete fool out of myself, but I just wanted to leave him and his mind-reading questions behind. I found the way back to my house, sprinted inside, and closed the door behind me. That's when it hit me. I wasn't safe here either. Chapter 7: The Flying Table. Inside the house, everything looked normal. The furniture was where it was supposed to be, and nothing appeared to be moving on its own. Mom and Dad were hanging pictures and asked for my help. They know I love hammering nails. After the last picture was hung, Mom said it was time for lunch and asked me to set the table. I walked to the kitchen as slowly as possible and peeked inside. Luckily, there wasn't any scary silverware people. As I put out the plates, Dad poured his world-famous lemonade, and Mom heated up Mrs. Cole's lasagna. Mom put the dish on the table, and that lasagna looked and smelled delicious. I wanted to dig right in, but I could hear Desmond in my head warning me to stay away from it. So I let Mom and Dad get some first. I watched as they ate. They both took little bites at first, and then they started shoveling the food into their mouths, like it was the best thing they'd ever eaten. First I heard "oh," and then "yum," and "ah." Then I heard "uh-oh," and "oh no." Oh. That was when Mom and Dad sprang from the table. Their stomachs were making awful gurgling noises, like tiny angry monsters. Then they ran out of the kitchen like two bolts of lightning and headed in opposite directions towards the two bathrooms. Good thing they had two. Right away, both bathroom fans went on, but that didn't stop me from hearing way too many noises coming from inside. "Ew, gross," I said to myself. I pushed my plate away and got up from the table. On the counter there was a bowl of, what else? Grapes. I grabbed a handful and took a bite of one. That was when I felt a cold gust of wind behind me. What could it be now? I hoped it was just my mind playing tricks on me again, but it wasn't. What I saw was all too real. The entire kitchen table, dish of lasagna, and all was floating high in the air. I dropped my grape on the floor and screamed. Chapter 8. As the table rose higher and higher, so did my scream. I tried to move, but it took me a few seconds to make my legs work. Then, just like before, I ran from the room. And just like before, I opened the front door. And yes, just like before, Desmond Cole was standing there. This time, I didn't slam into him, which was a good thing, because he was carrying some weird gadget. It made a whirring noise, and it had blinking lights. I was shaking too much to talk, but Desmond had a huge smile on his face. "I knew it!" he exclaimed. "You brought a ghost with you, didn't you?" He was so excited. He didn't even wait for me to invite him inside. He just pushed past me and ran into my house. "What are you talking about?" I asked. "Me? Bring a ghost? A ghost?" Desmond ran into the den and looked around. "Well, if you didn't bring it, then you're one lucky guy." "Lucky?" I said. Okay, this kid was bonkers. "Yeah," Desmond smiled as he waved his machine around. "Don't you get it? You're living in a haunted house." My heart stopped. "A haunted what?" "Stop asking so many questions," Desmond said, walking through the den, pointing his gadget at the walls and sofa and TV. "Don't tell me you've never heard of a haunted house." "I've heard of them," I said, "but I didn't want to live in one." "Can you do something about it?" "Of course," Desmond said. You moved to a haunted house next door to the right kid." Desmond's gadget was making louder and louder beeps as he moved closer to the kitchen. I followed behind him, far behind him. "Whoa," he exclaimed, stepping into the room. "Does your table always fly like that?" I shook my head. "Not usually." "Good," Desmond said. "Good," Desmond said, "because that would be really weird, but also kind of cool." He didn't look scared at all. In fact, he looked like he was having the most fun he ever had. Desmond jumped up and grabbed one of the legs of the table and pulled it back down to the floor. We were face to face with the lasagna. To be honest, it still looked delicious. "You didn't actually eat any of that, right?" Desmond asked. "Not me," I motioned to the bathrooms. "My parents did, and—" Desmond shook his head and gagged a little. "Say no more." Then, without warning, the lasagna lifted up at the dish and floated up above the table. I ducked behind Desmond and whimpered, "A haunted lasagna!" Now I've seen everything. But I hadn't seen everything, because when I looked again, the lasagna wasn't floating by itself. No, a ghost appeared out of thin air, and it was holding the lasagna in its ghostly hands. I sniffed the food with the ghostly nose. Oh, and it sniffed the food with its ghostly nose, and then gobbled the whole thing up with its ghostly mouth. "That's not good," whispered Desmond. "That's not good at all." Suddenly the ghost turned green, puffed up his ghosty cheeks, and let out a wet, disgusting burp. It was gross. Burp. If you've never smelled a ghost burp, consider yourself lucky. "Ew," I moaned. The ghost puffed his ghostly cheeks again, but before it could burp again, Desmond yelled, "Run!" And that's exactly what we did. Oh no, the lasagna even made the ghost sick. Some bad lasagna. Alright, okay, that's the end of this round. We will finish this book up in another video, so keep tuned and see what happens. Oh man, it's really getting crazy now. I wonder what's gonna happen. Thank goodness Cole is there, Desmond Cole. Wow, what would you do if you saw a ghost? I'd be freaked out, especially if he's eating the dinner off the table. Whew, crazy. Okay, catch you next time. Bye.
Five, four, three, two, one.
Houston to Hero Team 1.
I'm cleared her story time.